The Rangers need a little help this offseason building out their rotation, but if Ray Davis is going to play the cheap card, they may have to go shopping in the bargain bin.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a criminally addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you don't already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about some buy low starting pitcher free agents the Rangers could be targeting, because that might be all they're shopping for this winter, since Ray Davis has decided to pull the I am a cheap billionaire card. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Now, on yesterday's episode, I talked about Ray Davis yet again crying poor this winter, reading the tea leaves. It seems like he may be crying extra poor this winter. There may be some drastic moves that have already been proposed by Rangers beat writer Evan Grant from the Dallas Morning News about maybe having to trade DeGrom or Seager. I talked at length, ad nauseum, about that on yesterday's show. So let's look at continuing the free agent profiles for starting pitchers this winter, because the Rangers are going to need at least one, maybe 1.5 starting pitchers this offseason. But this episode, we've already talked about the high-end free agents, already talked about the medium-end free agents, and now we're talking about the buy-low free agents. One little bit of news and notes from the Rangers this weekend, or this week, whatever day today is. I'm already in weekend mode since it is Friday, and we're talking about bargain bin shopping. The Rangers did not extend any qualifying offers to any of their free agents. The only ones who were eligible, I guess it was just Tyler Mahle. Maybe there was a question of if the Rangers would extend him a 1 year, I believe it's around $22 million this year, the qualifying offer, but I understand why they didn't. I don't know that he's going to make a 1 year, $20 million deal. I don't know if Mahle is going to make $20 million or $22 million ish total in his free agent contract this offseason. He is one of the hardest ones to nail down. Spotrac has him at about a $5 million contract. I've seen him elsewhere in just baseball. I believe they projected him for a 2-year, $28 million deal. I don't know that he's getting $14 million a year. I don't know that he's getting the $11 million per year for a 2-year deal that he signed a couple years ago with the Rangers, coming off of Tommy John surgery, but we'll see exactly what that looks like. I want to start at the top end. The guy who is most expensive on this list probably should have fell into the mid-tier free agent starting pitchers, but I thought Chris Bassitt might belong more in this lower tier, because Chris Bassitt is on the older side, heading into his age 37 season, coming off of a okay season with the Toronto Blue Jays, where he did great things in relief in that World Series run, did not end up winning the World Series. But of these guys, he has been probably the most consistent over the last 5 seasons. I mean, he made his first All-Star appearance and only All-Star appearance in 2021. He's finished top 10 in Cy Young voting 3 times, once in 2020, in 2021, and in 2023. Been with Toronto the last 3 years, and he's just been a fine to pretty solid mid-rotation to back-end rotation starter. He made 33 starts and had a 3.6 ERA in 2023. Last year, he had a just barely below 4 ERA in 31 starts, 170 innings, and then 171 innings the year before with a 4.16 ERA. He's fine, solid, serviceable, dependable, a 2.1 baseball reference WAR last season, was about league average in 2024, and then was a 2.7 WAR player in 2023. This is a guy who does not have stuff that is really going to wow you at this point. He is more of a pitchability kind of a guy, but the expected numbers, all those look, mostly fine. They look about where all the actual numbers are. The fastball velocity is not going to jump off the charts at averaging 91.5 miles an hour, but he does not allow hard contact. He does not walk guys. He gets, good ground ball rates and limits the hard contact in the air. That is something that you want from a starting pitcher. And if he's going to be your number 4, 5 starter, because that's kind of what the Rangers are shopping for at this point. But he's projected to sign Spotrac has him signing a 2-year, $31 million deal, around $15.5 million per year. I don't think a 37-year-old is going to get multiple years, even though he's been just fine. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is going to sign a 2-year deal. If it was 2 years, $31 million, I'd feel fine about it. That's about the going rate for a starting pitcher. The Rangers paid John Gray $14 million a year for a 4-year deal, and he was fine. And if Chris Bassitt signs a 2-year deal and is making about $15.5 million per year with inflation, that's about the same rate as they signed John Gray to. And he's a little bit older, so maybe he starts to decline a little bit. Maybe he's not going to be able to make 30 starts a year like he has. I don't see why not, at least not next year, why he couldn't make 30 starts. And the year after that, maybe you're shooting for 25, 27 starts. But this is a solid pitcher. This is not a, buying low because he's bad, buying low because he's just fine. It's not that exciting. And usually when you spend money on free agents, you want there to be that kind of, upper echelon, that kind of ceiling in a guy that you're spending a whole bunch of money on. But this is honestly kind of an average-ish bunch of money, because starting pitchers are expensive. Starting pitchers in free agency are very expensive, and dependable starting pitchers are also very expensive. That's why the Rangers, I don't know if they're going to be able to shop in the top tier of these buckets of starting pitcher free agents. Now, when I said the Rangers need a 1.5 starting pitchers, I don't mean they literally need to get just a half of a starting pitcher, but I think in terms of starts, the Rangers, usually teams use about 8 to 10-ish starting pitchers per year. And so I think they need probably 36 to 40 or so starts added from free agents, because the depth behind the guys who are projected to be the top 5 in the rotation right now, it's not great. Unless Jose Corniel makes a big old leap and he's ready to be a major league starting pitcher, I don't see that happening, not because I don't believe in him, but I think that might take a little extra time. He had about all of 5 minutes in AAA, and I think he needs a little bit more time there. But I think Bassitt gets you at least 30 of those starts, and then you just need to find a guy who will get you 10 or so starts. And yeah, $15.5 million for a 37-year-old seems like a lot, but heck, the Rangers are already old. Their rotation is already old. Why not add one more old guy to the list? Now, let's look at another guy who is a former Ranger, not at the big league level, but in the minor league sense. The Rangers had this guy in-house last year, and he had a career season. Adrian Houser, who is 32 years old, heading into his age 33 season, projected to sign a 2-year, $20 million deal, because with the White Sox last year, the Rangers let him go to the White Sox. He was in their minor league system, and the Rangers said, yeah, our starting rotation is so good, we don't have room for you. We don't have room for you, Adrian Houser. And he was doing very well in AAA when the Rangers let him go to the White Sox. I thought maybe you could get a little bit more from the White Sox than they ended up getting, which I don't even remember what they got. I think it was maybe like a waiver claim, or not much. They did not get much from the White Sox. And he went there and he was excellent in 11 starts for Chicago last year, a 2.10 ERA, which is way better than he had ever done before. This guy had bounced around Major League Baseball for quite some time. This was his 9th big league season, mostly with Milwaukee, spent 2024 with the Mets, and then signed with the Rangers. Didn't have a good year in 2024, but the Rangers found something in him, fixed him. He is a location specialist guy, kind of like Tyler Mahle, but added a little bit more velocity this year than he had in years past, averaging 94.6 miles an hour on the fastball. Didn't hurt himself with walks, got a lot of ground balls, really avoided being barreled up, and had good extension rates. He's heading into his age 32 season. Like I said, he's not old, but still, this is a guy who had a very successful season. The White Sox flipped him to Tampa Bay at the deadline, and after 11 starts with a 2.10 ERA with Chicago, he had 10 starts and a 4.79 ERA with the Tampa Bay Rays. Not normal that you see somebody go to the Rays and get worse as a pitcher. Usually it is the exact opposite, especially with the White Sox. I don't know. The White Sox had some magic with their starting pitching this year. Maybe they figured out some things about how to be not a completely terrible organization, but this is a guy who is fine, a solid, serviceable starter. Maybe the Rangers should have ended up prioritizing putting him in the rotation instead of signing Patrick Corbin, but it's really nitpicking at this point. He had a really solid season. I think a 2-year deal is definitely in order after the kind of a season that he had. He'd been just a solid big league starter. His best season before this was probably 2021. He had a 3.2 ERA, made 26 starts, around 140 innings. Not a guy who's going to strike out a whole lot of guys. Not a guy who's going to really beat himself with walks. This was his best year in terms of walks per 9 this year. Also his best year in terms of limiting the home run ball. This was just a really good season for Adrian Houser, a solid back end rotation starter who can give you some depth, who can give you some length. 2 years, $20 million, $10 million a year for a starter that, fits as your number 5 guy, can give you 25, 30 starts. I think that's a solid deal. If the Rangers wanted to shoot for an Adrian Houser, I think that is a solid, serviceable option. But I think there might be some better ones if the Rangers are looking at buying even lower, including a couple former World Series champions with your Texas Rangers. Talk about who they are and why they might come to Texas right after this. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this sports season. Whether you're following NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using PrizePicks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. Like picking my favorite players, you can pick Patrick Mahomes, you can pick, you could pick Puka Nacua, you could pick whoever the heck you're wanting to pick and see how your predictions play out. The new stacks feature is a game changer, and you can pick more or less on Cooper Flags, points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Shout out to the every making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On Monday's show, I'll be looking at the best case scenario for the Rangers this winter. A little bit later on in the offseason, I'll be looking a little bit more in depth at the free agent bullpen options. But for right now, this is what we are looking at. These starting pitcher free agents. And next week, I'll look more into the bigger picture of what the Rangers offseason best, worst, and most realistic case scenario on next week's episodes of Locked On Rangers. Now, the next guy on this list is a lefty. I'd like the Rangers to add a crafty or at least an okay lefty to their rotation. Just adding it adds a different look that the Rangers unfortunately won't have this year. I would love it if Cody Bradford had not missed the entirety of last season and the entirety of next season with elbow issues. But alas, that's where we are. That's why I'm looking at actually a trio of lefties in this segment. But the first one on my list is German Marquez. Now, you may be screaming at me, Bryce, why are you going and getting a pitcher out of Colorado? And dear listener, I am telling you that the Colorado Rockies are not the best run organization in baseball. They have some players that are major league caliber players that are in an unsuccessful environment. And I really think that German Marquez is one of those. Now, he's coming off of his career worst season, truly an awful season, but it's hard to not have an awful season when you're a member of the 2025 Colorado Rockies, one of the worst teams in the history of baseball. Not the worst. Credit to them for not being the worst team in the history of Major League Baseball. But it was a rough year for German Marquez, and this would not be a buy high option. No, absolutely not. This is talking about buy low of buy low, projected to sign a 1-year, $3.2 million deal. He's heading into his age 31 season, and this is a guy who has had successful seasons at the big level. Heck, he's been an all-star as a pitcher of the Colorado Rockies. Do you know how difficult that is to do? There are not many guys who have done that. And it's not just because the Colorado Rockies had to have a pitcher to throw out there. Usually they just pick a random bullpen guy or a random hitter who is having a good season because every team now has to have an all-star. But in 2021, he was legitimately pretty darn good. And in 2020, he had a below 4 ERA as a starting pitcher of the Colorado Rockies. That is incredibly difficult to do. I urge you to not look at the ERA actual, but the ERA plus. That is something that takes into account all of the pitching factors, like the stadium factors, the factor of being at altitude where you hit a ball in the air, and a lot of times it's going to be a home run at Coors Field. Now, for his career, he has a 105 ERA plus. He has a 419 FIP. All of those things are used to mitigate the factors of pitching at Coors. And this is a guy who has got some good stuff. I mean, he is his fastball velocity back in 2022 was 95.5 miles an hour. It's still around 95 miles an hour as a lefty starting pitcher. The Rangers see something there. I think there is something that he can tweak. He's got a changeup that he's not using very much. I think could be more effective against right-handed pitching. He's got a curveball, a slider, a sinker. I think this is a decent starting pitcher where the Rangers could go get him for cheap. Excuse me, he is right-handed. I don't know why I always assume that German Marquez is left-handed. There's just something there. I'm confusing with somebody else that's a member of the Colorado Rockies. But this is a solid starting pitcher who the Rangers could go get for pennies on the dollar. And I think he would be absolutely worth it. If the Rangers could go sign him and get 25, 30 starts of about average-ish baseball from him, I think that is a great value deal the Rangers should go and pursue. The next guy on this list did not pitch as many starts as German Marquez this year, but he is a former All-Star nonetheless, and a former Texas Ranger, and a former World Series champion. That is Martin Perez, coming off of an injury-shortened season with the Chicago White Sox, where he was honestly really darn good. A 3.5 ERA in 11 games pitched last year, 56 innings, not a whole lot of strikeouts, not as many walks as he had done in seasons past, but this is coming off of a really good season. He limited the hard contact. He limited, the average exit velo against him. Strikeouts, walks, were not great. Whiff rate, chase rate, not great, but still was able to limit the runs allowed against him. I don't think it's going to cost a pretty penny to go and get him. I mean, this is a guy who is in his mid-30s heading into his age 35 season. I really don't think it's going to be expensive to go out and get him. He declined a mutual option that he had. He's projected to sign a $5.8 million deal. I don't think that is going to be the case. 1 year, $5.9 million if you're rounding up. I think the Rangers could probably go get him for around $3 to $4 million. I know he's coming off a season we had a 3.5 ERA, but he's in his mid-30s. He has had a couple of seasons that have been down seasons for him. I mean, 2024 was not great for him. I mean, he had a 3.5 ERA with the Padres for 10 starts, but with Pittsburgh, he was just straight up not good. The Pittsburgh Pirates just cut him loose in 2024. That's kind of where he was as a pitcher just last year. So maybe he signs a $5 million deal. Maybe he signs $4 million, but anything less than $6 million for a guy who I feel like the Rangers could count on for 20 to 25 starts, a guy who the Rangers have familiarity with, who they know how he pitches. He knows what it's like to be a member of the Texas Rangers. And even for all the flack that he got in 2023, he still was about a league average starting pitcher on a team that won a World Series championship. He didn't pitch a whole lot in the postseason, but he was awesome in 2022. If they can get anywhere near the form they got that year, I think that might be long gone, might just be a one-off year from Martin Perez. But this is a solid, serviceable starting pitcher that will not cost a lot, and the Rangers already have a familiarity with him. And so I say, hey, go ahead and bring him back. Next guy on this list, another former World Series champion. This guy did pitch quite a bit in the postseason in 2023. That's Jordan Montgomery. Now, you may be saying, whoa. Things did not go well for the last team that signed Jordan Montgomery. And I will say, hey, I know. This is about as buy low can get. Jordan Montgomery is coming off of a season where he is recovering from Tommy John surgery. He had it in early April of this year. Did not pitch at all in 2025. And when he pitched in 2024, it was an abject disaster with the Arizona Diamondbacks. It led to the owner of his team calling this contract a straight up disaster and saying we made a huge mistake out loud to people in front of microphones on purpose. That I've never seen that before. I have never seen an owner say, hey, yeah, that contract sucked. This player sucked. We shouldn't have done that. That's just record lows right after Jordan Montgomery had just beaten his Arizona Diamondbacks in the 2023 World Series. He was incredible with the Rangers in 2023. In 2024, he was taken out of the rotation. He ended the season with a 6.23 ERA, a negative 1.5 WAR season. It was rough. It was really rough for Jordan Montgomery, but he had a really tough start to that season, not signing until very late in the season. I couldn't believe that Jordan Montgomery took till March, I think it was, before he ended up signing his deal. So the spring training was short. The intro, the warm up to the season was a lot shorter. I think that really led to a lot of his issues in 2024. And then Tommy John surgery this year. He's heading into his 833 season, projected to sign a 1 year, $2.5 million deal. I think that is a steal. If you get somewhere between 10 to 20 starts, maybe around 15, 22 starts or so from Jordan Montgomery, and then he's about the version of him that he had been in seasons past. I mean, he's been about 6% better than league average in terms of his ERA plus for his entire career. This is a solid, if this is your number 4 starter, that's solid. This is a guy who you can give the ball to in a postseason series. He can have some success. And at this point, if the Rangers signed him, he was their only signing, and they roll into a postseason series, this guy's your number 4 starter. That's a great place to be. We know what this guy can be in the postseason now. Maybe everything's changed from 2023. Maybe he's not the pitcher that he was, but at $2.5 million, this is as buy low as buy low can get. The risk is very minimal, and the upside could be very, very large. I am very in on a super buy low for Jordan Montgomery. He is not going to make a whole lot of money this year, but the upside is very much there because we've seen what the best version of Jordan Montgomery can do, and it is freaking awesome. The last player on this list, we'll talk about the only other external free agent, and if the Rangers' internal guys are just the best option as opposed to a bunch of these buy low guys I just talked about. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next fourth quarter comebacks. We've got all kinds of different action for different sports. Let's look a little bit at the NHL because the Dallas Stars, they did not have the best night last night, but they are right now the 6th favorites to win the Stanley Cup at plus 1,100. They are behind the Edmonton Oilers, Florida Panthers, Vegas Golden Knights, Carolina Hurricanes, and unfortunately, the Colorado Avalanche have the best chance to win the whole dang thing, according to FanDuel's odds. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now, let's look at the rest of these buy low candidates. I apologize that they're not as exciting as the buy high candidates. They go spend a whole bunch of other people's money candidates. That's a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun talking about the top end guys that the Rangers could sign. But of those guys that I talked about on, I believe that was Tuesday's show, of the highest in starting pitching free agents, Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Dylan Cease, Michael King, Zach Gallen, Shota Imanaga, and Brandon Woodruff. I didn't talk about Shota until, I believe, Wednesday's episode. All of those guys did receive the qualifying offer. The only one that I didn't talk about at the top end that did not receive a qualifying offer is Lucas Giolito. I think Lucas Giolito might have actually taken that qualifying offer, but those guys, I don't think any of them. Well, maybe Zach Gallen, honestly. Maybe he takes a qualifying offer. But I don't know if the Rangers will end up kicking the tires on those guys who have a QO and risk losing their first round pick, depending on how high it is this year. But this buy low group may be, unfortunately, more realistic given the Rangers' financial situation or their self-imposed financial situation. I talked about it yesterday, why I think Ray Davis is crying poor, and I'm so incredibly infuriated with it happening literally every offseason since they won the World Series of, oh no, we can't afford to spend money, but I digress. The last guy on this list is not a former Texas Ranger, but he is a Texas native. The Justin native, Northwest High School graduate, Dustin May, former Dodger, former Boston Red Sox, former top prospect, really just one of the oddest careers that I think any young starting pitcher has had. He is the youngest guy on this list by far because he made his debut back in 2019 as a 21-year-old. He just zoomed through the system. He was awesome for the Dodgers in 2020. And then he has not made, until this season, he had not made 10 starts in a season since 2020. This year, a career high 23 starts, 25 games, 132 in a third innings. And he has just had the most injury-plagued career of at least anybody that I'm talking about on this list. He has missed time with shoulder issues, with elbow issues. He missed an entire season with an esophageal surgery because he was eating a salad and he did not eat the salad very good. And it was just an incredibly weird and scary situation. But he missed all of 2024 with esophagus surgery. I mean, I've heard of a lot of weird baseball injuries. There was a broken thumb by a Texas Rangers player back in 2014, 2015. I think it was 2014, where a guy broke his thumb because he got high-fived too hard. Shout out Jeff Baker. Shout out Kitten Face for high-fiving him so hard. And shout out Levi Weaver for that investigation several years back of finding out who broke Jeff Baker's thumb with the high five heard around the world. But this was an odd one. He's coming off of a not great season. The Dodgers basically just cut him loose. They said, hey, even though we have a lot of starting pitcher injuries, we just don't really need you. I mean, in those 25 games that he pitched last year, a 4.96 ERA. He was better with the Dodgers than he was with the Red Sox, a ERA around 5.5 with Boston, and an ERA around 4.85, exactly at 4.85. I don't know why I'm saying around 4.85. But in seasons past, he has been a guy with a very, very big fastball velocity. This year, the fastball velo was just around 94.8 miles an hour. That's not where it had been in years past. That's actually a pretty significant drop off from where it had been in years past. It was averaging, more 97 and a half miles an hour, 98 miles an hour back in 2020. I mean, this guy had some legit raw stuff. I mean, he had averaged 99 miles an hour with the four-seam fastball in 2020 and 98 with a sinker. This is a guy who has just missed so much time. It would be buying very, very low and kind of banking on their internal scouting department. I think that he's not going to get more than a 1-year deal. I just don't see anybody taking a big old risk on him. He is a former Texas Tech guy, so I actually did not know that somehow. But Dustin May, the Justin graduate, he's projected to sign a 1-year, $3.9 million deal. And for a guy who's 28, who has got all the raw talent in the world, I think this is a guy who the Rangers could possibly fix. I trust their models if they want to go after this guy. I think they see something there that they could fix, that maybe a change of scenery from the Dodgers could not fix in Boston, but maybe it could fix here. Maybe being close to home fixes some things. Maybe the Rangers see something in their models that they could get the best out of Dustin May, because he has missed a lot of time. This would not be a big money signing, that even though, you don't normally get starting pitcher free agents that actually hit free agency at age 28. But still, this is a guy with potential who the Rangers, I think, should at least look into. But I have no idea what kind of contract he's signing. If it's a very buy low 1-year type of deal, I say go for it. But if it's anywhere in the multi-year deal, I think I would be very, very out on Dustin May. But he is someone who very much intrigues me. Now, of all these guys on this list, there's not a whole lot that really excite me. Jordan Montgomery, I'm excited at the prospect of buying so low on somebody who I think could be very, very valuable. But I mean, of these guys, the guys on signing these 1-year buy low kind of a deal, I think really the best option that the Rangers might have is just to bring back the guys that they've already got. I mean, I really think that Tyler Mahle, who I've seen anywhere from, a 1-year, $5 million a year deal to 2 years, $30 million. I mean, who knows what kind of a deal he's signing, but I like Tyler Mahle and the upside there a whole lot better than literally anybody on this list, even Dustin May and all of his issues. And I'm less worried about Tyler Mahle's injury issues than I am about Dustin May's, or heck, even about a few other guys on this list. Patrick Corbin, you're going to get about 30 starts. He's going to be around a 4 to 4.5 ERA. And that's about what you're going to get. Maybe there's some other guys on this list that I've got to mention. Oh yeah, Clayton Kershaw. Maybe he comes out of retirement and finally signs with the Texas Rangers. No, that's not happening. Unfortunately, there's just nobody else that really excites me on this list. Maybe a reunion with Max Scherzer heading into his age, what will be 42 season. Maybe that excites you. I don't think so. Maybe you want to kick tires on a 43-year-old Justin Verlander who's just chasing a whole bunch of wins. I don't know that that's necessarily the route to go. Nestor Cortez, who's projected by Spotrac to sign a 3-year, $36 million deal. That does not excite me. I don't see any scenario where he gets more than he got this last year. He's not a good starting pitcher, and that's not particularly exciting. maybe Tomoyuki Sagano. I don't know. There's not a whole lot that's really all that exciting on this list. And so for that reason, I think a reunion with either Tyler Mahle or Patrick Corbin, or heck, even giving Merrill Kelly a 1 year, $60 million deal, I think those excite me a whole lot more than most of the guys on this list. It just depends on how cheap the Rangers are going to be this offseason as to where they actually end up going. But this is a deep starting pitching free agent market. I mean, I've talked about, I think, 20, 25 guys or so on these 3 episodes talking about the starting pitchers that are available in free agency. And all of them are at least serviceable. And there's still several guys that I didn't even really talk about. I mean, I barely talked about Shota. I don't think the Rangers are going to be in on that. I didn't really talk about Nestor. I didn't really talk about Fetty or Scherzer or Sagano or even Miles Michaelis or Tyler Anderson. Like none of those guys I really touched on at all. So there are a lot of options for the Rangers. And even if they do end up going in the bargain bin, they've done such a good job of shopping for some of these buy low guys, especially on the pitching side. The hitting side, their free agency targets need some work for sure. But I trust what they're going to do with this pitching staff, even if the budget is a little bit lower, which will frustrate me to absolutely no end. But whether they're buying high, whether they're buying in the middle tier, whether they're buying at the low end, I think the Rangers have got the makings to fix this pitching staff up. And while it might not be better than what they had in 2026, I think they're at least going to have a really darn good staff in. It might not be as good as what they did in 2025, but I think next year is still going to be yet another good year of Texas Rangers starting pitching. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.